October 3rd, 1868. Anna Morgan is working with her husband James in the field outside their Kansas home when a group of Sioux warriors attacks them, wounding James and taking Anna into captivity. According to the National Park Service's biography of Anna, the Sioux tied her to her horse after brutally raping her, and then traded her to the Cheyennes for horses. There she met another captive named Sarah White. We recently did a video on the captivity of Sarah White, and in this episode we will hear about what happened to Anna Morgan. This is a Thanksgiving Day release of a members-only video on this channel, and in this special edition of Unworthy History, we will be reading about the aftermath of Anna Morgan's Indian captivity from this book, which was published only in 2023. Captured: The True Account of Sarah White and the Cheyenne by Bethlynn White, who is an indirect ancestor of Sarah White. I think this book gives the most complete account of the unfortunate story of Anna Morgan, and if you'd like to show your thanks to a modern history author like Bethlynn White, then you can buy this book by following the link in the video description. So here is the tragic tale of Mrs. Anna Morgan's Indian captivity. One thing that is different between Anna and Sarah on that fateful rescue day is how they must have felt. While they both put forward a reserved, external, composed demeanor, inside their feelings were most certainly different. While Sarah hated every moment of her captivity among the Cheyenne, and was internally elated and relieved to be among her own kind, and get on with her life, it is very likely that Anna did not feel the same way. This is based upon the facts also mentioned previously in her own words, where she stated that she accepted the proposal of marriage to the chief, who was kind to her. Now remember, she had been repeatedly raped and beaten, and if she married the chief she would be protected from both of those heinous acts upon her person, as well as no longer considered a slave maid to perform heavy and laborious tasks. Now those women who had dished out beatings had to serve her. She elevated her position to one of a more comfortable status, and this could be easily deemed as an act of sheer life preservation on her part. After all, she thought her husband James had been savagely murdered, and that this was her life now. She was unaware that her own brother approached Custer personally to insist on his going along in the campaign in search of her, or that there was any search for her at all. She settled down to make the best life possible with the cards she had been dealt. She admittedly had feelings towards the chief. Were they actual love? That we will never know, but she did care for him. In fact, she was with child upon the day of rescue. It was a short time following her rescue that she gave birth to a son, whom she named Ira Arthur. She adored him and loved him as any mother would love their child. She made remarks of him of how much he looked or reminded her of his father. He seemed to be a healthy and active child at first. This is where my own instincts and thoughts on her situation come into play, and yes, it is backed up by a statement by Anna herself, which leads to much credence to my thoughts. Her husband James comes to thought as a possessive type of man, or one who is drawn to bringing up instances as a type of guilt trip or method to keep Anna in check, and perhaps due to his own insecurities. Again, my thoughts were backed up by her own statement. Ira fell ill. He became quite sick, and the attending doctor who cared for him during his illness made the following remarks. The little fellow had all the instincts and characteristics of his race, would hide behind doors and corners, creep along the grass and bushes, and exhibited many of their traits. These were obviously observations based on the fact that he was familiar with the child as he was growing. Sadly, Ira passed away at the tender age of 1 year, 4 months, and 27 days, on April 30th, 1871. Anna mourned his death deeply. Over the years, there has been suspicion that Ira had been made ill by the hand and doings of James. While this cannot be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, the suspicion remains. After all, he was a constant reminder of the acts by his legally wedded wife, who lay with an Indian man. To him, the child was most likely an embarrassment, an affront to his own masculinity, and a daily reminder of her infidelity. Shortly after the passing of Ira, a matter of a few weeks, James and Anna welcomed a little girl into the world. Her name was May Maud, and she was born in May of 1871. In total, James and Anna had 3 children together. Claude Ralph was born in 1874, and B. Glendale or Glenn was born in 1878. Anna spent the subsequent years raising her children and tending to her household in an efficient manner, but life for her was increasingly unhappy and difficult to bear. She had no close friends or confidants. She bore the brunt of James's attitude as well as that of the community of neighbors due to her having had a half-Indian child. She was ridiculed and ostracized behind her back, and over the years she became increasingly unhappy, to the point of being morose and sullen. Her life had become a burden, and living so isolated as she raised her children and a husband she no longer loved, she composed a letter. To whom it was written to I could not discern, and it is here where her statement I alluded to comes to light, regarding his treatment of her infidelity as he saw it in his mind. My life received a blight at that time, referring to her capture, which will go with me to the grave. Life has been worth nothing to me since then. Do not mention my husband to me. He reproached me times without number for my misfortune, for having been a helpless victim to the atrocities of the wild savages. The years took their toll along with the grief she felt over losing Ira, and she could no longer bear to remain with James. She went to live with her brother Daniel, and James subsequently divorced her and relocated to Colorado. The ages of their children at the time leans to them being old enough to be on their own. Her mind began to increasingly fail, getting to the point that in late 1901 or early 1902, she was admitted to the Topeka Asylum for the Feeble-Minded. She seemed to improve for a time, but after several months in which she made the statement on more than one occasion regarding her captivity and relating to her marriage to James, there were many things that I have not spoken of. After I came back, the road seemed rough, and I often wished they had never found me. It lends credence and truth to the possibility of real feelings of love for the chief who married her. After several months her condition worsened and she passed away on July 13, 1902, at the age of 57 years, 7 months, and 1 day. James wired a message instructing to have her remains properly cared for and moved to Delphos. He arrived, as did their son Claude and his wife, as well as a large group of friends and neighbors, at the arrival of her body at the train station. Pallbearers were J.K. Sullivan, A. Barnes, M. Blanchard, Ed Ferguson, J.N. Blanchard, and B. Parks. Her obituary reads, "All that was earthly of Mrs. Morgan was laid to rest after a life where joy and sorrow were mingled as few are called upon to experience, and as we believe, fewer yet could have carried the burden as long and as well even as she did. The deceased was born in New Jersey and was a woman of many excellent qualities, especially efficient in housekeeping and household duties, a generous neighbor and a kind friend. She leaves 3 children, Claude of this place, Mrs. Maud Carver of Grand Junction, Colorado, and Glenn, whose address is unknown. Anna is interred at the Delphos Cemetery, in Lot 83 alongside her son Ira. This cemetery is located on Highway 41, just east of Delphos, and southwest of Concordia, which is on Highway 81, some 16 miles away. The easternmost entrance on Highway 41 to this cemetery is where you will locate her gravesite on the left side of the driving path, not far inside the gates. In the city of Delphos is another monument constructed and placed many years later in dedication to Anna and her capture. So that's it for this episode from the new book by Bethlynn White about the capture of her second-grade aunt, Sarah White, in 1869. This is a follow-up episode for our Patreon and YouTube channel members. In the original episode, we heard more about the life of Sarah White after her escape, and she seemed to recover much better from her ordeal than Anna Morgan. Sarah married Erastus Brooks and had 7 children, 6 of whom lived to adulthood. Anna Morgan, however, died in an insane asylum at the age of 57. Her husband James would die 3 years after her at the age of 64. There doesn't appear to be any record of the Morgans' youngest child, Glendale or Glenn Morgan. In the obituary for his mother, his location was listed as unknown, and I have not been able to find a record of his death. He seemed to have just disappeared even before his mother's death. Anna Morgan seems to have been ostracized by her community, and at least emotionally abused by her husband. The author referred to Anna Morgan's infidelity with the Cheyenne chief in single quotations to suggest that it was her husband who viewed what happened to Anna as infidelity. It seems she was not looked upon by her husband and some in the community as a victim, but instead as a willful participant. This story also alluded to the possibility that James Morgan was behind the death of Anna's half-Indian son, Ira Arthur. However, this appears to be complete speculation. There is no evidence that James was behind the death of Ira, other than the motives the author mentioned. I am now going to read the short About the Author section from this book that tells about the author's motivation for writing it. Bethlynn wrote this while living in Wisconsin, in the region she grew up and raised her own children, and not far from the childhood home of Sarah herself. This account was always near and dear to her, having grown up with it in the family history, both orally and written. But no one had dove in to dig deep into every nuance that presented itself to bring a full book to light until God instructed her one day in 2020. The day she actually began her intense research journey was exactly 150 years to the day of Sarah's capture, and this was not intended. It was a serendipitous event she calls a God wink. Bethlynn decided to write this under her maiden name of White. Her relation to Sarah is as a cousin. Sarah's father Ben would be her great-great-uncle. Ben's brother Harvey is the line she is descended from. This biography is also not in the genre Beth usually writes in. She considers herself a romance writer, not a biographer, and claims that this endeavor was the most difficult thing she has ever attempted, but was a labor of love. When she isn't writing or creating art, she likes to spend time researching and foraging for medicinal plants, for natural medicines and skin and hair care uses. She also loves to travel on her husband's motorcycle to go see this country, and spend time with her grandchildren. So that is the tragic story of Anna Morgan, as told in Bethlynn White's recent book, Captured, the true account of Sarah White and the Cheyenne. The author felt as though she was called to write down this history of her ancestor, and here on this channel, we feel called to present this kind of history that has been deemed unworthy to discuss on history channels on TV. Thanks to our viewers and our Patreon and YouTube channel members. If you would like to show your thanks to an authentic modern historian like Bethlynn White, then it appears that you can buy her book for only $10. You can follow the link to buy it in the description of this video. Wouldn't it be something if everyone who watched this video went and bought her book for $10, causing it to become a bestseller? I am not affiliated with the author in any way, but I think it would be great if a book that tells the true history of our ancestors became wildly popular. So if you want to see more episodes like this, then be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Unworthy History.